"You can do it, Louie!" I heard a mother scream to the fence. It was a hot, dry day. While my son stood at the back. I just smiled. You see, I'd heard that statement so many times from my parents while growing up. The only difference was my name wasn't Louie. You see, my father's middle name was Louie, and my grandparents used that exact statement to encourage him. And in turn, my father used it to encourage my sister, my brother, and myself. According to my father, those words were spoken to me when I took my first steps. You see, my first steps were a little different than most children. I was born with a severe case of club feet. Now, that doesn't mean I was born a great dancer, even though I looked like it. What it meant was my feet were severely turned in and twisted. It required surgery shortly after I was born. From the surgery, I moved on to casts that went up my feet and up to my knees. From the cast, I moved on to corrective shoes held together by a bar. I had to wear this for 23 hours a day. This continued until I was 2 years old. Now, my grandmother, she loved to tell stories of my days in cast, how she would take me to get new cast put on, and sometimes in the car ride home, I'd kick the cast off, required her to turn right back around and head back to the doctor's office for a new set. Now, my mom loved to tell stories of what I did to the babysitter's house. Notice I didn't say at the babysitter's house. I said to the babysitter's house. With those tiny little casts, I kicked a hole in the wall. Now, my mom always held a bit of a soft spot for me due to my difficulty in my early days. And when I was first starting out in business, she was my biggest motivator. On one day in particular, when nothing seemed to be going right personally or professionally, have you ever had one of those days? I received a letter in the mail from her. Big bold letters, big bold words on the front page. "You can do it, Louie." Her simple words told me that my parents believed in me. And it instilled a belief in myself. A belief that led me on to my next business venture. And a belief that led me on to start a family of my own. 2003, my wife and I were at the hospital, expecting baby number 2. Shortly after we arrived, out came my baby boy. They stripped him up and they took him to the other side of the room. They wouldn't look at us. They wouldn't speak to us. They were whispering. "What's wrong with my baby?" my wife screamed as her eyes began to well up. "I want to hold my baby," she cried. After a thorough examination, they brought us our son. The only thing wrong with him was that he had club feet. He had his daddy's feet. I comforted my wife. I told her he's going to be just fine. He just has his daddy's feet. I'm not going to kid you. His feet were hard to look at, but I knew it wouldn't slow him down. I named my son Louie because I knew he could do it. And I was right. And that mother screamed through the fence at my son. It was the last game of the season. They'd only won 2 games all year long, and they were losing this one. 2 outs, bases loaded. Pitcher threw the ball. Louie swung. The crowd roared as the ball sailed down the right field line. His teammates cheered, and they met him as he crossed home plate, hitting a grand slam, winning the game. Those simple words, "You can do it," can redirect your DNA. A few months ago, I was given a speech in a contest. Shortly into the speech, I froze. I lost my place. The lights were so bright they blinded me. I began to notice the audience of 100 or more start to squirm in their chair as if they were uncomfortable watching me crash and burn. Okay, maybe it was more like 30 people in the room, but it didn't matter if there was only one. I was frozen like a deer caught in the headlights. Panic taking over, my heart pounding harder and harder. I was about to walk off the stage when I heard a voice. Am I the only one that hears voices? I heard my mother's voice. You can do it, Louie. In that moment, I snapped back as if I never missed a beat and continued the speech. You see, doing it's not about doing it perfectly. It's about finishing what you started. It's about never giving up. It's about, in order to achieve your goals in life, you're going to be uncomfortable sometimes. So I challenge each of you to adopt the philosophy, you can do it. And when you're stuck, afraid, or not taking action, I want you to hear the words, you can do it, Louie. It doesn't matter if your name's not Louie. Neither is mine. Each and every one of you are Louies. And I know you can do it.